Part 4 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. My boyfriend's little sister tells me that their parents know about this game that she plays with her older brother. They strip completely naked. So as she's telling me more and more, her parents walk in. It was the first time I disrespected somebody in their own home. They start yelling at her for not staying put where they told her to stay put. That way I couldn't talk to her. That's when I snap and I start going off on her parents. And how I know that their son is touching their little daughter and they're not doing anything about it. And that I'm not afraid to report them. And her parents go ballistic. It's also when my boyfriend gets out of the bathroom. Mom comes up to me and tries to smack me. Dodged it. Then she's yelling and screaming at me to get out of her house. It's kind of a hard situation because I knew that if I called the police, I would have no proof of anything. I would necessarily be trespassing since they told me to get out. That little girl can't speak for herself. They groomed her. She thinks it's okay. I wasn't gonna leave that little girl in that house, so I stood my ground. That's when my boyfriend grabs me. The dad grabs me. They pick me up. I can't even make this up when I say that they threw me out their front door. Part 5 of how my boyfriend got away with touching his own little sister. So after I confront the parents about it, my boyfriend and his dad both pick me up and they chuck me out their front door. They go back inside and then my boyfriend comes out again and throws my purse at me. My heart was torn to shreds because I knew that there was nothing that I could do. I didn't have enough proof of anything and I knew that I could not get back into that house ever again. Now I can't talk to that little girl. But I went ahead and reported them to Children's Services anyways. They said the most they could do was a well-being check. Obviously they didn't see anything wrong in the well-being check because nobody in that household was going to admit what really happened. And I also know it went well because after they threw me out of their house, my boyfriend had blocked me completely on all social medias, but I still did have his friends on social media. I saw one of his friends post a Snapchat at his house with him and his little sister in the background, which means that little girl never got taken out of that house. I also made sure to tell all of his friends, but everybody just thought that I was lying and trying to falsely accuse him, so there was nothing that I could do. Here's another toxic ex-best friend story time. So me and this girl became friends through a play that we were doing in school. The plays at my school were always mad funny, so everybody on set was really cool. We hit it off like this. She offered to drive me home after the rehearsals and the practices. We would always go to get coffee after our practices, but after doing that for a while, we just started hanging out after school. Well, eventually we got close and I invited her to this slumber party that I was having. Should've never done that. And here's why. I also invited my boyfriend of 5 months and my other close friends. We were all having a really good time, you know, busting it down, throwing it back, talking shit, playing games, whatever. We specifically talked a lot of shit about her ex-best friend. We, as in everybody at the slumber party. Emphasis on we. Keep that in mind. At this point, it was getting really late. It was like 2 a.m. I ended up dozing off and falling asleep. Now, I woke up to some very slight clapping. And so I turn around and I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Like for part 2. Part 2 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. I wake up because I hear some clapping and I turn around. I see my best friend doing the spread eagle on my boyfriend. Busted wide open. No remorse. None. So my best friend at the time sees me looking at them, giving me a very much, oh, you wish that was you, huh? Look. You're probably wondering what was going through my mind at that moment. Well, murder wasn't on my mind, surprisingly. I had another plan. So once my boyfriend notices that I'm awake, he tries to push her off of him as if he wasn't just doing what he was doing and tries to apologize, saying things like, oh, I didn't know what I was doing. You were asleep. I just couldn't help myself. You know, just a bunch of bullshit. And so I'm like, y'all putting on a show with the amazing actress that I am? Not gonna let me join? You know I always get the lead roles in the plays. Come on. Mind you, I was basically completely over my boyfriend at this point. I already started losing interest in him. This basically just did it for me. So I'm like, hello, lights, camera, action, let's get it going. And so I start to go down on him. Then I just take a big old bite right from his. Part 3 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. Like I said, I wake up from my own slumber party and see my best friend and my boyfriend getting it in at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I asked to join and then I took a chomp out of my boyfriend's badonkadonk. And not only did I do that, but right after I took that big ass bite, I turned to my best friend, bit her titty. Now we were all equal because now they're feeling the pain that I'm feeling. So now my boyfriend's mad. My best friend is crying. And I can't lie, I loved to see it. The tears rolling down her face was just, there's something about it. It just made me want to. Anywho, obviously I kicked them out of my house. I need to realize that I had bought my boyfriend a gift. It was over like $500 and I wanted that shit back. So I pulled up to his house and his mom answered the door. So I'm like, how you doing, Miss Judge 𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚? I am here to get my money from this man. He did end up giving me back the gift. Getting a lot of texts from my best friend at the time. She was just trying to apologize, trying to make it seem like she really felt bad or something. After I completely ignored her and left her on red, she went ahead and posted a video of her on top of my boyfriend. You can see me sleeping next to them in the video. Part 4 of my toxic ex-best friend story time. So like I said, I kicked my boyfriend out and my best friend out after I saw them sleeping together at my slumber party. One day I started getting flooded with texts and then I get sent a video that my best friend posted of her on top of my boyfriend and you can see see me sleeping in the video right next to them. Obviously, I was 1, embarrassed, and 2, thinking of an escape plan for when I have to escape from jail. I'm just kidding. I wanted to be petty, but I decided to take the smarter route instead. I didn't even bother texting her or saying anything to her at all. I just screenshotted all the videos that she was posting from her account. Not to mention, she captioned it, "Couldn't even keep your man, sis. Didn't even want him." Anywho, she also posted a video of a voice recording of us all talking shit about her ex-best friend. All of us were talking shit, but she said in the caption that it was just me. Well, my other close friends were there and they vouched for me that it wasn't just me. So she just looked dumb. And I just ended up telling the school what happened. I brought other people who saw what happened for proof, because having the pictures on my phone would get me in trouble. And so she ended up getting expelled and got charged for having and spreading child pornography. This is part 2 of my quick story time, and please listen because I need advice. Like I said, I go over to my white boyfriend's house for the first time, and the first thing I see is a Confederate flag. I don't know why I was surprised. Now that I think of it, I should have expected that. Then his mother approaches me with scissors, cuts off a piece of my hair, then she pulls away and says, jokingly, "It's like we have an intruder." Once I started looking around even more, I started noticing some things these white folks had, and I quote, "Negro collectibles." Let me tell y'all about this shit. Y'all see this? Yep, that's Negro collectibles. There's another one. Basically, they collect racist items. I know about those collectibles. My mom always told me, watch out for the people that own that shit. I was in the sunken place. Those are them serial killer white people. Obviously, her cutting off my hair and seeing those collectibles set off my fight or flight. Guess which one I chose? Not flight. I snatched the scissors out of her hands. I'm aiming it at the racists, telling them to stay back. So she calls out for her husband and he brings a rifle. Part 3 of my quick story time, and please listen all the way through because I need advice. So I'm at my boyfriend's house. His mom cuts off a piece of my hair and I look around the house and I'm seeing Confederate flag mat, racist collectible items. Well, after she cuts off a piece of my hair, I was ready to fight. I grabbed the scissors out of her hands and aimed it at her and my boyfriend. I told him that they could both get it. And she tries to hit me with the, "I know you're not threatening me in my own home." B, I was threatened as soon as I walked into your home. Who approaches a black person with scissors and you literally collect racist items and have a Confederate flag? Bring your grandma up here. I'ma threaten her too. She calls out for her husband and he brings out a rifle. So I try to make a run for it to my car. Well, she throws the pieces of my hair that she cut off at me and says, "And you can take your naps with you." I'm not even hearing her. I get into my car and put the keys in, child. This crazy old white lady grabs the rifle from her husband and starts banging my car with it. That bitch thought I was playing with her. I wasn't. I ran her ass over twice. Forwards and backwards. I was not playing with that crooked tooth bitch. Ladies, this is why you should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. If you ever find yourself in a situation where a car is following you or making every single turn that you make, do not, and I repeat, do not drive home. And this is why. So I started talking to this one guy through this online dating app. Yes, I know the dangers, baby. I was desperate. I was taking my chances regardless. We decided to go on a date, and that would be the first time that I would ever see him in person. Never FaceTime before this, and he looked exactly how he did in his pictures. The way I was ready to with his fine self. Point is, he looked scrumptious. Scrumptious. Anyways, y'all get it. Y'all get the point. Well, I was already at the restaurant we were supposed to meet up at, and I was waiting for him. We had a really good time, but it was time for me to go to bed because I was getting tired. Mind you, I didn't see his car when he pulled up. He just walked in. But anyways, I start to drive home. Well, 15 minutes into the drive, I kind of noticed that there's a car behind me that has taken every single turn that I have taken since I left the restaurant. So I start taking random turns to see if the car would still follow me, and it did. Well, eventually, I stopped to park in a random driveway. At first, that same car passes by me, but then it turns right back around and parks behind my car. Part 2 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. And if a random car starts following you, to never drive home. So like I said, I noticed this random car following me, so I didn't drive home. I parked into some random driveway, and the same car that was following me drove right past me. I waited a little bit to see if I was in the clear, and I see that same car driving right back towards my direction. That's when I duck. I basically try to make it seem like I went inside, even though it's not really my house. Well, he ends up parking right behind my car, and he gets out of his car. At this point, I was terrified, but at least I was in my car so I could run him over if need be. And thankfully, I have tinted windows, so when he walked past my car, he didn't see me because I was ducking. I didn't really get to see his face or what he was wearing. He basically looked like a black figure. Like I said, it was really dark outside. Whoever's house that was didn't keep their front porch lights on. Thankfully. Then maybe he would have seen me. Well, he gets to the front porch. That's when I immediately get up, turn my car back on, and drive home. Well, the next morning I was woken up by someone ringing my doorbell. Look outside and I see the same car from last night parked in my driveway. Part 3 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at nighttime. Like I said, I was able to get away from whoever was following my car last night. Well, the next morning someone was ringing my doorbell, so I woke up. I look outside my window because my bedroom window is right at the front of my house. And I see the same car that was following me last night parked in my driveway. I didn't know what to do at this point, but I thought that I should at least try to see what he looks like. So I go to my door and I look through that little peephole. When I say I almost passed away, it is not an exaggeration. It was my date from last night. I swing open my door and I'm like, motherfucker, how did you find me? I didn't give you my address. I straight up confront him. I'm not playing around. I say, were you following me last night? He goes, oh, I just forgot to get your number. At the moment I was thinking he could be telling the truth because we did only talk through that online dating app. We never exchanged numbers. So I went ahead and gave him my number and didn't think much of it. That was a big mistake. The next day I woke up to 200 missed calls and 50 texts from him. For part 4. Part 4 of why ladies should be cautious while driving home alone at nighttime. So my date shows up to my house, aka the dude that was following me last night, and says that he was following me because he never got to get my number. Low-key believed him because we never did exchange numbers. I kinda thought it was a little cute. He would follow me just to get my number. At the time I wasn't really thinking that he could have just like texted me on the dating app for my number. But yeah, I should have never gave him my number. Because when I woke up the next day, I had 200 missed calls and 50 texts from him. So I start reading the texts and it was not an emergency. It was actually a nightmare. Text read something along the lines of, text me back right now, where the hell are you? I need you. Call me back or I swear to God. So I didn't even bother replying. But as the day went on, he kept texting me and he kept calling me. The texts turned into threats. I was thinking about just blocking him. Then I remembered since he followed me and I drove home, he knew my address. Part 5 of why ladies should always be cautious while driving alone at night. Like I said, I gave my date my phone number. Then the next morning, I woke up to a bunch of spam texts and calls from him. Basically just saying things like, call me back right now. I need you. Text me back. And then his text started getting worse. They started saying things like, if you don't text me back, I'm gonna kill you. I was thinking about blocking him, but I didn't want to make him mad because he knew where I lived. I show his messages and all his calls to my girlfriend. They just tell me to go to the police. One of my really good friends came over and took me to the police station because she didn't want me leaving my house by myself. Well, when we got there, they told us that they couldn't even do anything because he hadn't committed a crime yet. And that the threats that he sent me just weren't enough to make a case. Well, I did end up blocking him. I blocked his number and I blocked him on the online dating site. Basically moved in with my friend. It's been like a week now and I haven't really went home. My girlfriends and family are now helping me find a new place to stay. If there's any advice that anyone wants to give me, please leave it in the comments.
It's not my fault that you're lonely. I know you feel like having conversations, but please don't put that shit on me. No, this happy hour don't need complications. I'm doing great, I'm feeling fine. Don't need your worries on my mind. No, all by myself or another one. 'Cause I don't need nobody, I don't need someone. Quit trying to kill my life, quit trying to steal my light. I'm fine, drinking alone. I got my whiskey on ice. Don't need your loving, no way. I'm fine, drinking alone. It's not my fault that you're lonely. No, I know you feel like having conversations, but please don't put that shit on me. This happy hour don't need complications. We're trying to kill my life, we're trying to steal my high. I'm fine, drinking alone. I got my whiskey on ice. Don't need your loving, no way. I'm fine, drinking alone.
Smiling all big and shit. Then she opens her arms and hugs him. So she was expecting his arrival. But that was just a little friendly hug, right? You know, nothing too crazy. And they both proceed. This was a team effort to kiss. I pass out. Part 3 gets crazy. Part 3 of the time my mom cheated on my dad with my ex-boyfriend. Receipts included. After I see on Snap Maps that he's at my house, me and my friend drive past my house to see if he was actually there, and his car was in the driveway. My mama opens the door for him before he even knocks. Then me and my friend witness them lock lips. At this point, my blood is cold. The way I hop out that car faster than you could say homewrecker. So there I am running towards them. Obviously, they see me running towards them, eyes wide open, and they start looking at each other. I'm like, hey, don't look at each other, look at me. Look over here. What y'all staring at each other for? So I asked them if I just saw what I just saw. Obviously, they try to gaslight me. My friend was there and she saw it, so ain't no fooling me. So I'm screaming at them and I'm going at it. And they're screaming back like they didn't just do what they did. Our neighbor, who is a cop, hears us arguing and comes outside and tries to defuse the situation. He asks us what's going on. I just tell him that everything's fine, and then we go inside. So we go inside and I sit them both down. I'm more curious as to how they even formed this whole entire relationship. So I tell my ex that I won't expose him if he sends me all the messages between him and my mother. Making part 4 right now. Part 4 of the time I found out my mom was cheating on my dad with my ex-boyfriend. So once I caught them, I told my ex-boyfriend that I wouldn't say anything to anyone if he sent me all the messages between him and my mother. There my mom was, still trying to lie about it, still trying to deny it. Like me and my friend did not just see them both trade spit. He ends up agreeing, and there my mom is just looking dumb. And she says, if he sends you these messages, you're not allowed to tell your dad. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Obviously, I was still gonna tell my dad. All of those messages are posted on my Instagram story. So I did end up telling my dad, and he divorced my mom. Not surprised, it was gonna happen anyways. Their relationship was going down the drain. We both move out, and then I stay with my dad until I go to college and get my own dorm. I still talk to my mom every now and then because she was never a bad mom. I never understood and will never understand where this whole thing came from. Just that one incident was traumatizing and uncalled for. Our relationship after that was never the same. It was just always awkward. Last thing I heard about my ex was that he moved to states. This is why boys should cut all connections with their ex when they get a new girl. Please make sure to watch all parts of the story because it all comes together in the end. Let's get into it. Junior year of high school, I started dating this boy whose ex was known to be crazy. She was so crazy that when me and him first started dating, she told everyone that he had taken advantage of her and got her pregnant so I could break up with him and no other girl would ever want to date him. Nobody believed her because she was a compulsive liar and she lied about serious things like that all of the time. And it was proven completely false when months later, she had no baby bump. I took it upon myself to start talking shit about her on my Instagram, as I should. But when she found out that I was talking shit about her, she wanted to fight. I don't fight over boys, so I told her to get over herself. Fast forward a week or two, I'm sitting in my living room and I hear the doorbell ring. I go to open it, but my mom's already at the door. She opens the door. Next thing you know, I see my mom get snatched. So I'm thinking, damn, it must be windy as hell outside. So I go to check to see what happened. And when I get outside, I see my mama getting whooped by 3 grown men. My boyfriend's ex was standing there and laughing. Part 2 of why boys should cut all connections with their ex when they get a new girl. So like I said, I see my mama getting whooped by 3 grown men. And there my boyfriend's ex is standing there watching the whole thing and laughing. Once the men see me, they stop and I run to make sure that my mom is okay. And they start cussing, saying this, that, and the third. I'm telling all of them to go to hell. I'm trying to rush my mom back inside. There was seriously something wrong with her. Her nose was bleeding. She couldn't answer my questions. She was pretty fucked up. And my boyfriend's ex starts yelling and says, this is what you get for getting me a miscarriage. Now this girl was delusional. I did nothing of the sort. Never put a hand on her. This is the first time I would be seeing her in person. I don't even know how she got my address. I don't bother arguing and I get my mom back inside. I hand her a phone and I tell her to call the police. But I also make sure to tell the dispatcher that we're gonna need an ambulance. So then I go to my garage. I grab a bat, walk right back outside that door, and I go sicko mode. And this is when it gets crazy.